Good afternoon to everyone here. Kindly settle down. We've gathered here today for two historic occasions, both of which have roots in the past, but their impact on the future. We are very glad to have amongst us the parents of those children who will be sworn in this evening to positions of leadership. It's rooted in the past because some years ago you took a decision to send your child in our trust and in our care. And today we are proudly telling you on stage, we will read out their citations and for you to realize how much your children have done in a short time. And for the coming year, they will give us leadership and direction to our school. The other category we have here is some of our distinguished alumni, mostly of the 65 batch, led by Mr. Deep Kapuria. You're aware of his antecedents, but I'll speak a little more on him later. But again, this is rooted in the past, because long before some of you were even born, their parents came and left them here in our trust and care. And now you've seen what they've become. So you can see that our past record is excellent, and we have great hope in the future as well. Mr. Deep Kapuria has been kind enough. His company, the High-Tech Group, has been consistently giving us endowments with a plan of setting up a human-centric center of excellence in AI and robotics, which is the need of the future. And once today we will unveil it, but once it's fully taken off to its desired levels, for which he has got very ambitious plans, then I can say with full confidence that our children will go out into the world fully equipped for the world of tomorrow that most of us can't even understand. So for that, sir, to you and your friends who've come to support you, we are eternally grateful to you and thank you very much. I'll just give you a sneak peek into what this AI lab looks like. We were also supported by an endowment by the government of Punjab. At that point in time, the governor was one of our alumni who's also a lifetime member of our board, Mr. VP Singh Badnor, and hence the building is named as the Guru Nanak AI Lab. But it's in collaboration at this stage, in a nascent stage, with the High-Tech Group headed by Mr. Kapuria. And in time to come, you all parents, unless you've got younger children who are also in school, and I know some of you do, will be around long enough to see where this goes in a couple of years from now. So with that, a brief peek into what it was looking like. Once we finish from here, I'll be handing over to Mr. Kapuria. He will talk to us about his project, and maybe he would request his friends to come and speak about it. But let me tell you the importance of this whole event. Both events today is so much that we've also had members of our General Council coming today. We have very senior and eminent alumnus, Mr. Sharad Javli, who's a little senior to me in school. Right, sir? We have our very recent chairman who was standing in after late Kota died for 1 year, but now he's going to look after the estate and other aspects. And I'm glad he's here, His Highness of Karoli, who I cannot claim as elder to me because he was in school, he joined school after me. We also have a very young representative from the old boys who's joined the board recently, Mr. Karan Rathod. He's also here. And the committee, chairman of the Mayo College committee is on his way. He had another meeting in Jaipur, but he's broken off from that, and he should be with us even as we finish here, or definitely before the evening's function. So we are very happy everyone is here, and a quick look at what didn't look like much of a building at one time. This is not how it looked when you now see it. And I think nothing has to be explained about it, right? Because when you walk there and see, you will see a different thing. But this is how it's been gradually built up. So after it was initially set up, it started taking shape. And then the students got on to working on various projects, which are of a very basic level, and some of them might have been seen by you during the last prize giving. But from this hobby level kind of thing, we want to make it into a center of excellence, and that project is being encouraged with the experience and endowment from Mr. Deep Kapuria and his family. So this is what it looks like when you enter after this, the Guru Nanak Dev Center for AI in collaboration with a high-tech group. And this is what is going there for today, but it will become much bigger later when it has its 2.0 and 3.0 versions of a human-centric center of excellence for robotics and AI. They are the two main people who behind the start of the project, and now it's taking much better shape as we go along. So just quick introduction I wanted to do and leave it here. And I think today's evening is really all about you, Mr. Kapuria. So I think the faster I step off this, the better. All yours. Thank you.
I always attract this static. So I don't know what it is worth. Is it because being an alumni or because I was handed over the mic from a very eminent speaker? Electrifying, as Casey called it. So electrifying or shocking, whichever way we would like to see it. So just to get my bearings right, how many of you are parents? Could you raise your hands? Oh, great Lord. So you always have a colleague to tell you what to do and how right you need to be before you get on to the main subject. So how many of you are parents who are going to be the boys in the school and today going to be sworn as the monitors? Great, great, good to see you all. And a lot of my friends and who we all were together, and we sort of graduated, as they call in US, but we sort of did our 11th from school in 1965. So that makes us a bit of, let's say, not relics in any which way, but definitely spirited people who don't count age at all as something which comes in the way of the ambition. So for the parents, when I joined school, and a number of us here who are here, and I'll be introducing them shortly, I joined way back in '58. And that time, we were hardly around 300 students in a 450-acre campus. And that was the time which I think Casey and Jaideep were just describing. In Casey, I'll introduce you who Casey is and who Jay and Jaideep are. That we were in a transition from something which was a school which was getting in transition, and from what was the traditional mode of the transition from basically a public school which was started for the Rajputana princes to the commoners like us. And we take that pride in us that we are part of that transition. And to say that we had great number of influencers within us, within those people, those teachers who were there to mold us and mold our minds. I'm reminded of Jack Gibson, his picture right there. who was our principal then, and he molded us in a way, and I remember a question in one of those Saturday pre-lunch kind of sessions that we used to have, and he asked us, why do you think your parents have sent you to school? And many of us answered, to study, to build character, etc., etc. And every answer to that question, he just nodded his head in a negative way and said no. So finally, we had to raise our hands and say, could you please enlighten us? And he said, you are here to learn how to think. And that's what the world is coming to. It's true, it was true then, and it's true now. And I'll talk about that a bit. The second influencer that I consider, who molded my mind, was our Sanskrit teacher, who was known to me as Gurudev and to the whole school at that point of time. And he used to be taking our temple service, which was every day of our lives in Mayo. And Sundays was a time where we would wear a safa and a jodhpuri coat, whether it was summers or winters. And summers were like we just discussing, we used to hardly wear anything under that jodhpuri coat, and we would have sweat going all around us. But still, something kept us gripped besides the barfi that we got at the end of the discourse, was something he was building into us. He was building some kind of ethos which we came to value way, way ahead in life. At that point of time, we may or may not have realized what was going on, and many of us in the Sanskrit class didn't even pay attention, and there were backbenchers, a few of my friends also, who didn't really care for what was going on. But truly and surely, there was something which was seeping into their DNA, which made them what they are today, and definitely what I am today. Third teacher who was here, who brought me up to speed with maths and influenced me greatly, was a teacher by the name of Ramesh Shah. I always give that credit to him. You all may not know all these people, but they were great in terms of character building into what we achieved in our lives going forth. If we see and look at the issue of learning how to think, how has it changed today? What are the teachers of Mayo going to do? Like just General Kulkarni said, that we are going to turn out leaders. And leaders not only for the country, maybe for the globe as well. Because the globe is desirous for ethics and values which are lacking all over. Specifically for something called ChatGPT, and now the second version, if you pay $20, you become the member of GPT-4. And I've been playing around with it, being in the technical aspect. All you need to do is put in something, it can write an essay for you. I had written a poem in Hindi way, way back, and I just put it there and said, could you write a similar sentiment in Maithili Sharan Gupta style? And within 5 seconds I had it. And I said, could you write it in Pant style? And there it was again. So the question to the parents and the teacher is that what are the teachers going to teach, and how are they going to make the children think in an era where technology is going to be taking leaps and bounds and actually growing at an exponential rate. And that's where the challenge lies. Not only in a world where a lot of us, including of course the next gen and the gen after that, is looking for instantaneous gratification. You order on Amazon, you expect the delivery to happen, within the next hour, if not 5 minutes. You have these ads telling you that pizza is not delivered in 30 minutes or you'll get a free pizza. So it's actually, is it corrupting our society? Is this what our children and grandchildren will have to deal with? And are we equipped for it? When we talk about this, it becomes also necessary to understand the issues of ethics and technology. Unless the technology and specifically the AI systems, and when I talk about AI, I hope many of you would be updated to it. But if you click on Amazon, you click on any of Netflix, YouTube, whatever content you click on, you're going to see a similar content being fed to you. So what you're thinking is being supplemented again and again and again. It's not going to give you another thought or challenge you for something more or give you another point of view. So is the society being worse into such a way that there will be a divide between the liberals and the conservatives, as we are seeing all over the world? We're seeing that stark example in US. Is that the way the world is going to move? Unless, and Jay and I were talking at dinner last night, that how can we keep this narrow AI, I call it narrow AI in our parlance of technology, because it's yet not broad or in-depth. When I talk about GPT-4, it's narrow because it's just accesses literatures and what is put on the content all over the globe for up to 2021, and then vomits out whatever you want. That's narrow as that. But what's going on is broadening of this, where is it going to dictate you or are you going to dictate it? That's going to be the challenge of the future. And unless the children are talked about the technology and ethics in conjunction, they will not really know what's happening to us. So this is how the concept of human-centric technology for AI and robotics Center of Excellence came about. It was my passion to give it back to something to the school. We as a group are close to about $300 million with manufacturing facilities in US, North America, exporting all over the globe, in all kind of technology products and manufacturing products of the highest quality order. And that teaches us something. That teaches us that we have to be absolutely on our toes in a very volatile and uncertain world. And this is where we talk about that we need to understand. I hope it's not going to shock me again. Yeah. So all our companies, all our group companies follow this shlok we must have all seen, heard. It's also there in our assembly book. And if you see Astoma Sadagamame, this is also the ethos that is written in all our Mayo chapters to say, let there be light. That's pretty much the same. Is this ethical aspect going to be also a part which is going to govern technology? And when General Kulkarni talked about turning out leaders from the school, is that the way we are going to go forward? So, is this something that in our own way try to inculcate it right from the junior school? That this is, don't get overwhelmed with technology, but also integrate it with ethics. So going forth, you have citizens who are aware, responsible to handle technologies and not let it go wayward as AI could. Let me give you an example of where ethics in our company goes. We produce autonomous vehicles. For the army, we do autonomous vehicles at various stages. All the Benz trucks today are armed with our advanced driver assisting system. Go to the next slide, please. That is how our company, what it does. And let me tell you an ethical question that we face as how autonomous vehicles come about. You hear a lot about them. What if a driver, or not a driver, is sitting in an autonomous vehicle, sitting at the back, the car is driving itself, and suddenly a child comes on the road. Now, is that car moving at maybe 100 miles per hour going to hit the child, or is the car going to waver and hit a tree and hurt the passenger in the car? That's ethical question. And there is nothing right and wrong about these questions. And these are lesser in complexity. But there's a lot more influencing bots, influencing people, influencing the mind of simpletons, and managing leadership and putting some leadership in place and building public opinions. All this is right there, right now happening, and worse could happen. So there is data being generated on a daily basis, which is terabytes and terabytes of data per microsecond. And each of that data is getting analyzed somewhere or the other, wherever we are on any kind of social media platform or anything that we may be doing. Even your car has an OBD device, which is called onboard data gathering device. And I can download the data and tell you how you have been behaving in the car. Have you been accelerating? Have you been doing this? And so all this is reality today. And this human-centric Center of Excellence AI 2.0 is going to address some of these issues and make the children alive to some of these issues, and hopefully to deal with them in a way that not only they can contribute, but contribute positively to the societal problems and issues that the world is facing. And if you see around, we'll go around, the SDG programs are also shown right around the lab today, and how we are lacking, the world is lacking in the basic kind of problematic issues of SDGs. So these are some of the issues we are trying to address. Next. So the human-centric robotic and AI Center of Excellence 2.0, we are going to be investing in this coming year another close to about 50 lakhs. And that is going to take this lab from what we would consider a kind of a hobby shop today to something of a greater learning and challenge the children, but still keeping rooted to their ethics. Next, please. These are my colleagues. We have set up a small steering committee, all from my batch. You know, Jaideep Singh. खड़े होके wait करो. We have another Jaideep Singh who we call Jay, who's been also, who was our head boy and was instrumental in getting the clock tower started. So if you see the clock working, the credit goes to him. It was a challenge to get this, what was 1879 clock, which sort of had to be revamped with the similar components and get it going, and he finally got it going. We have Casey. Casey Verma, all of them, we were actually go back as 8-year-olds together. I was an 8-year-old and so were the rest of them. And we all walked the same journey and went through the same curriculum, same value system. Casey and I were very close right from that school, and Casey is all right. He was, I think, one of the exceptional students with an IQ of a genius, and went on and to prove it all, he went on to be the chief of RA&W, retired as that. In his good times, he could recognize 10 Pakistani agents, 100 Pakistani agents if they just crossed by. If they just walked by, he would know him. वो AI system तो नहीं लगा था तब, but it was all in his mind. Then we had Sharad Bhandari. We're also together, and each one of them I have pictures, and we're trying to repeat that in the same location in Colvin House. That's how we were together. And Sharad also has a passion for technology and is close by in Jodhpur, so he can help us also monitor some of the work that is going on. Next, please. Now, to supplement this, we also thought that an award is in a need. There's a need of an award to substantiate what we are doing and encourage the children to take it up. We have proposed this award in technology and innovation, so the mind opens and is not restricted to just a very straight-jacketed thinking, but expands the mind to, as they say, learn through mistakes, learn through bumblings, learn through failures, but nevertheless learn. What is in our company criminal is not trying. You fail, it's fine. But if you don't try, then you're booted out of the company. So I thought this is one aspect, a trait, which needs to be inculcated within the children, that we need to have innovation which includes technology. And what more better than to have a trophy and award. We'll have a jury, I was just talking to General Kulkarni, one of the challenges which just I said, I would give a special award to a senior who can make a golf cart autonomous and move around the whole campus. Yeah, we can program a robot to do that. So this is one of those challenges, and let us see how the children come up to that. And it doesn't matter which course curriculum they are following. It really doesn't matter. We can all be innovative. We can all be absorbing technologies. We can all be thinking differently, out of box. And I just must end with again Mr. Gibson. It was Mr. Gibson who took our geometry class. He was the principal of the school, and he took, I think we were introduced around, what is M2, right? In M2, that's fifth.
Class 6 or 7?
Yeah, it's probably class 6. Okay. So, his first lesson in geometry was how Eratosthenes measured the circumference of the earth. That was his first lesson to us. You'll never forget it. I can tell you how, draw the diagram still and do that. And our first project, which we were given as a team, was to measure the height, given a scale, and were to measure the height of the clock tower. That was the project. So you can imagine, wasn't that innovation? Wasn't that building a mind of sorts? The other thing, which will be another kind of a eye-opener to you all, not for the old boys, but to many of the parents, was that around his classroom he had cartoons which are of Punch. Punch used to be a magazine long back, now gone out of print, but those cartoons had just some figurines and figures with some doing something, but without any words. And the homework would be, what is the joke in that cartoon? Now if you look today, what was he trying to do? At that point of time, I don't even think the research talked about left and right brain and development of it. He was doing exactly that, teaching us geometry, right brain orientation to a left brain orientation, and left brain orientation to a right brain orientation. So think out of the box through the right brain orientation and be mathematically right through the left brain orientation. Hopefully, this will be the endeavor, and try to recreate in this lab an experiment right from the juniors to see that they too balance their thought and mind and balance their right and left brain and help them grow as leaders, not only for the country, but of the world. Thank you so much.
So what we're now going to do is, we're going to request his friends whose pictures you saw on the screen, not what you normally find, as an IPS officer will understand the wanted list, but wanted by your dear classmate.
Thank God it's on this wall and not on the wall of a thana.
ये भी एक थाना ही है मेरे को. But I'll quickly just give you this thing on what is to follow. We're going to request his friends to come and speak one by one. So, whom do we start with? You've started with Mr. Jaideep first on the charter. Anyone? Head boy? Okay.
I don't know where to start from because I think the guy with the highest IQ in our class should have started, Mr. K.C. Verma, and I was the chap with the lowest IQ. Let me also tell you that.
The head boy's parents say don't discuss.
there's hope in being of a lower IQ too, so don't get discouraged. Everybody makes a life of their own. I'd like to stress on one point that Deep brought up also, and which is I think a very, very crucial point in the making of, in the use of AI, and that is the ethical point. And I think one thing that Jack Gibson also taught us was, without making it obvious, to be very ethical and honest and have integrity in yourself. I remember an example where Andy Sharma, a good friend of ours, my batchmate and my roommate as well, told Gibson in a geometry class that he was wrong, that Gibson was wrong in his theory of whatever he was saying. And Gibson sort of said, come here, and gave him a hard whack with his compass on his bottom. And he then realized that he was actually wrong. So Andy kept arguing with him even after being beaten, that you're wrong, sir, you're not right. And finally, Gibson had to admit that he was wrong. And he said, Andy, you come here. Called him, punch me in the stomach very hard. And Andy punched him. So, I mean, that's the kind of, if you're wrong, you have to admit it and say so and carry on with life. But at that time, I think one of the students also mentioned that what Gibson taught us was to be too ethical and therefore not be as street smart as one should be. I can't tell you how wrong he was. You can be street smart and you can still be ethical. So I think he got something wrong somewhere. So I'd like to end with that. Thank you.
We're going to go in a graduated scale that I'm not even aware of. I know he's owned up to being the lowest IQ. I know who has the highest one. So those intermediate people I'll start with.
I was the one, I was one of those rare people who joined Mayo in class 1, KG, and that was 1956. In those days, school started from class 1 and passed out in 1965, senior Cambridge, 66, higher secondary. Economics was in higher secondary. I wanted to do economics, so we did that. But in those 10 years, I started off at Duffers, So in the second year, when I was in P2, as it was called, from first term, I was slightly better different than the rest of them. So they promoted me. So in class 2, I got double promotion, and that didn't help because, एक तो है ना बड़ी मुश्किल से तो दूसरी में पहुँचे हैं, फिर उसके बाद तीसरी में जाओ आधा छोड़ दो, so पीछे ही रहे हम, back benches ही रहे all the time, but we caught up. But Jack had a great deal of influence on me, on everybody. And when I left school, in the school leaving certificate, he wrote two things. That Jaideep has been in school more or less as long as I have been because he had joined in 53 and I had joined in 56. And the second thing is that he is not academically brilliant, but he has 2-3 things. He has got integrity and he's got common sense, and I value that more than academic brilliance. I think that gave me that gave me a good shit or something. But I remained close to Jack. And just a week before he died, I saw him in the nursing home, because whenever I came, I happened to be on the council. Every time that I came for a meeting, I spent an evening at 5 o'clock. I must go and play, go and see Jack. And whenever I went at 5 o'clock in the evening, he insisted on a sundowner. And if I got there a little early, he was playing his Beethoven or something, or the Western classical music, which I didn't understand at all. But I had to wait till that music piece was over. And once it was over, then I told Jack, why do you wait for me? Why can't you listen to it? If you love it so much, why don't you play it from morning at any time? He said, that will spoil the whole show. I get so bored of it that I have that craving that I must have it for half an hour. And we did that. And because there was no water, even if you felt like going to pee in his house, there was a piss pot in the corner. You went and peed over there. He wouldn't allow the water to be flushed down because there was shortage of water. At the end of the day, the old man will pick up the piss pot and throw it and just flush it once. So these small things helped us. The other guy who had a great deal of interest not only on me, but on all of us, all 5 of us who went to Colvin House, was Mr. Gui. Mr. Gui was phenomenal as far as all of us were concerned, and that was class 5, 6, 7. And finally, the great Naveen Chandra Sharma, N.C. Sharma, whose this thing is coming. He was my housemaster in senior house, Charu Sharma's father, and you could openly discuss with him. He taught me maths which I couldn't understand. So one day I said, "Sir, आप चिल्लाते तो हो हमारे पे, पढ़ाते तो कुछ हो नहीं." He was the head of department. Then he said, he got the point. He said, "I am too good for them." So he gave us P.K. Sajwala, who was a great man. And he knew how to teach absolute, what you call in Rajasthani, dofas like us. So he would tell stories about this and that and teach us basic, and we all go through mathematics also. But there were a whole lot of anecdotes, I keep repeating them. There are so many in those 10, 11 years that I have been. I can't, Mayo just stays in my blood and it will remain, and those values, I still value integrity much more than, economic brilliance or economic fortune. You are very fortunate that you decided to put your children over here. I'm sure they'll grow up to be great human beings when they pass out. Thank you.
Thank you. Just one or two things. Deep talked about ethics, and Jay also talked about ethics. I don't think I can overemphasize this aspect of life. In my work, I deal with medical ethics as well, in the sense that we look at postgraduate, undergraduate theses and dissertations that medical students put up for ethical clearance. Several times I have found that their plan of dissertation is more of a copy and paste from elsewhere. The internet is now very prolific. It is from there, and the tendency also is to fudge the samples. This is not only a problem with their own thing. They are interested only in getting through the whole process and getting their degree. Somewhere along the line, probably these figures are collated and quoted, and human lives, sometime or the other, will depend on it. Is this true ethics? I don't know. On the one hand, the student wants to get through his examination. That is his sole thought. On the other, it may affect a lot of other people as well. Ethics is not something that comes about in a day or by a lecture. A lot of you are parents. It comes about from you to your children. How much time you spend with them? What is the value system that you imbibe in them? Do you spend at least one meal a day on the table with your children? If you do that, you will be able to see what is in their mind. The example that Deep gave about the autonomous vehicle and the child running into the middle of the street is a very, very potent example of ethics and how artificial intelligence can be programmed, should be programmed, or how it should be done. At present, now, in the last 1 or 2 years, there have been several tomes which have been written. One of them that I know is from a writer called Yuval Harari. I'm sure you all heard of them. He talks in a book of 20 questions for the 20th century. I think that is the thing. It is worth reading. It's worth reading. It gives an insight into a lot of things. And it probably could be summarized and parted on to your children. It may help them. Coming back to a little lighter vein, Deep and Casey were the top of the class. I was part of the plodders, okay? So, but then, even then, we had a great time here. I would like to give you an example. The way that things were taught here, I think Deep has also mentioned about it, Jaydeep has mentioned about it, and things like that. The counterpart of it, if you have ever come across, it's a YouTube series called Khan Academy. The guy is super, absolutely super, and he teaches in a manner which you will never forget. He was talking about a turbojet engine, and he says that something like this, I don't remember the exact words. हवा आती है तो ये सुसरा गोल गोल घूमता है और फिर इसको ये घुमाता है, इसके अंदर तेल डालते हैं तो ये जलता है और ये आगे और घुमाता है. You know, in that sort of way, but he explains it in a manner which you won't ever forget. This is exactly the same thing that our teachers used to do for us. The basics that they inculcated into us, I don't think any of us will ever forget. And that is the foundation that they laid for us. I'm hoping that your children will also have the same experience in this school. Thank you.
Mr. K.C. Verma, you're absolutely wrong.
Surprisingly. Am I audible now? Is it better? Or should I use the loudspeaker? Okay. Right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, on behalf of all of us, I'd like to congratulate you, your special day, your children being acknowledged and being recognized. We wish them all the best, and to you too, all the parents. I would like to just share a personal set of experiences, because I think we've covered all the bases already. I joined Mayo in 1958, and I did my Indian School Certificate in 1965. During that period, we lived in separate houses. Deep and I have been together since then. Incidentally, I'm also on Deep's board of High Tech Years, and we've been collaborating for a long time. After passing out from school, I did my college, and then I joined the Indian Police Service, and then I spent something like 40 years in security and intelligence-related activities. And my experience, and I'm sure it is common with a large number of other organizations, has been that no matter what you do, you're always behind in terms of technology. When I joined, most of the messages were being passed in Morse code, da da da, dit, and so on. Then we got the teleprinter. All of a sudden, all those people who had been passing Morse code messages had to be retrained. Some of them had to be thrown out because they simply could not go over to the format of the teleprinter, where they had to type. From there, we switched over to fax messages, we switched over to other means of communication, and at each stage, we had obsolescence of personnel, we had retraining costs, we had, I would say, plain and simple, a whole lot of, deadwood that needed to be excluded. Record keeping is extremely important in all organizations, more so in an intelligence organization. We had files, we had tags, we had indexing systems based on registers, then we went over to microfilm, then suddenly microfilm readers weren't available. We switched over to microfiche. Microfiche became obsolete. We switched over to optical discs, which were very, very expensive, something called DocuTreeve. And then suddenly, the support system for DocuTreeve, the companies which were involved in that, failed. And a whole lot of documents needed a humongous amount of investment to get them back into the system. Of course, there's that flippant remark that the oldest record system which has not yet failed is the Indus Valley seals. But there's a limit to the number of clay seals that you can store. The point that I'm making is that you need technology. No matter what happens, technology will change. No matter what happens, it's going to be difficult to keep pace with that change. And at each one of these stages, challenges will be thrown up. Choices will need to be made, they will be difficult. And when it comes to certain other areas of endeavor, in my case, I'll take just simply the matter of interception of communications. We grew up from a system where you had to bribe a lineman in the telephone exchange to put a wiretap. From that, we came to, automatic devices, we came to selectors, we came to off-air devices, and then, of course, Pegasus and things like that. And at each point of time, ethical questions which have been referred to earlier, both by Deep and by Sharad, arise. Where do you balance, let's say, the interests of society with the privacy concerns of an individual? How intrusive can you be? And these are the more elementary ethical questions. There will be much, much higher level of questions. All that I can say is that the rate of change that we have seen, our generation is also yours, and I'm sure the generations to come, the rate of change has been increasing. It's a brave new world out there. It's a scary world out there. I can assure you my granddaughter's knowledge sometimes of the gadgetry that she handles scares me. Now, this endeavor that Deep has taken up is with that hope that the children who will be studying here will be familiar as to what's going to happen. And mind you, with machine learning coming in and, AI generally, it's going to just spiral faster and faster. It's going to be a much, much faster rate of change. The hope is that we shall be able to keep this technology harnessed to the human ethos, to our values, number one. And number two, make sure that the children aren't scared of what's going to happen. They know what's possible. If they don't remain ahead of the curve, at least they are able to ride the wave. And if that is achieved, I think, Deep, you'll have done a great service to your school. With those words, I thank you very much, and I once again wish you all the best. Thank you.